Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Journey into Comics, a podcast about comic books, video games, movies, television, and everything nerd with your hosts, Nate Phillips and Brandon Stowe.
You're gonna see some serious shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Journey into Comics. I'm your host, Nate. Today, as always, joining me, the 11th Doctor to my 10th Doctor, I think is what I'm going to say today. Brando, how's it going?
It's going pretty good, number 10.
Hey, I like that. So how have you been?
Better, not bad, okay.
I personally have been experiencing a little bit of time travel, because this is episode 148, but I feel like we already did 150.
We might have.
And it's kind of like messing with my timeline a little bit. It's like, shit, I want to talk about that, but we can't yet.
No,
we
not
gotta
yet.
Save it.
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, it was a cool episode. Of course, I mean, for the big landmark episodes, we try to be together, and how it worked out this time is just that we were going to be together before we actually got there. So we just kind of didn't, focus the episode on any sort of big topic other than just looking back on us, looking back and celebrating Journey to Comics and have a good time. We brought back a lot of cool old things that you might have forgotten about. Like,
yeah, man,
the biology report.
The biology report is deadly.
The biology report was something that
Some fun.
it was done. Shoot, was it episode 2?
Episode 2 or 3, man. Yeah, it was pretty early in the JIC days, I think. Let me see. If I go up onto our Instagram, it's going to tell me really fast here.
It's not on our Instagram. It's on yours.
Oh, it's on mine. Wow. Okay. Brando with the save.
That predates it. That's how I was able to find it, because you couldn't find the paper anymore. That's where I read it, was from on your Instagram. I want to say it said episode 2, but that was something that that we brought back and we read again for anybody who didn't listen all the way back then and hasn't gone back that far to listen to episodes. We brought that back and read that, and it was absolutely hilarious. Number one is that it was getting late in the night. We were a little slap happy anyway. At least I was.
Oh, man.
And just, I've read it before. I've heard it before. Even before the podcast. That was a thing. This biology report was a thing, and it never gets old, because you don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't read it for a long time. You kind of forget some of the things that are funny in it. And
then it gets you.
Yes. Oh, man.
It definitely got you. No, doing 150 was cool. I can't wait for that to come out and then talk about it and whatnot. I think that this is the only time ever in the history of Journey into Comics you'll hear me mention Toby Keith. But that episode was like, want to talk about me, Because that's kind of what the episode was. We were just like, it was kind of like, how Game Addicts has the retrospectives on systems. We did a retrospective on our fucking show.
Yeah, pretty much. We just kind of celebrated it. We took a look back, talked about all our old intros, played some of them. Now, just to say that I'm going to be working on editing that, because, doing this episode allowed me to figure out exactly why I have issues playing stuff here on the podcast sometimes. And that is because if something is in stereo, how I have, lined in audio, well, it doesn't really like to pick that up, or it only picks up one side of it or part of it. And so a couple of the intros that we played were not in mono. And so basically, when you listen to it after when it's up, you guys aren't going to notice anything, but you're going to notice hearing us say, well, that was messed up.
Yeah, like, oh, shit. Or the reveal for the thing that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, certain thing that might happen because we only played it that once for the audience. I'm going to fix it to where it actually plays it, and it's quieter. It's going to be not so breaking eardrums.
Oh, groovy.
But dude, that was really cool to have you down here. We kicked some podcast ass. Of course, we did the metal cast, which went up last week with Nick Maxon and Colby Terry.
Face.
Whoa, dude.
Man, Colby Terry is so talented, bro.
I don't know what kind of sound that was. Yeah, I think you're still stuck in the time loop because every once in a while you cut out and it sounds really wicked.
Oh no!
Can
you hear me?
Yeah, dude, you're fine now. But I mean, it's not like the electric cat like it normally sounds like. This one was like really like wicked sounding. It was really weird. But getting back to what we're talking about, we was it like 2015? We did 2 metal casts, one with myself, Blaine and Nick, and then of course later on brought you in. We did one, and then we took like a whole year off of that, and then we just sort of mirrored the metal casts, like almost for time and location, for how we were like recorded them, springtime, summertime. So this year we did 3 and 4. Of course, Blaine was there for the 3rd one and the 4th one, but then on the 4th one we brought in, of course, Nick Maxon, local Lafayette, metal scene coordinator, booker, lead singer. I want to say for Weed Bee, and Huge, a new band that is out now, and then Colby Terry was formerly a Weed Bee, and now he's in like this really cool like video game metal project that he's working on. I think it's called Colby Dude. You can check that out on YouTube. Of course, I'm a big
Colby
fan
Dude music, yeah.
I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff. I mentioned it on Metalcast. Daniel Tidwell, I've been following him for years, ever since he first did like his first like Final Fantasy battle metal cover, and he's been slowly doing more stuff over the years. But really badass episode there. And of course we also did the most recent episode of the Game Addicts podcast. I had you on again, and we talked about the PlayStation 2 and our favorite games, a bunch of memories. So that was a lot of fun as well. And of course that is the latest and greatest episode of that podcast. You can go check that out on podcast services and YouTube if you want to see our smiling faces and our table full of games.
And my sneezy nose.
And your sneezy nose.
Like, dude, it was so bad. Like what happens is I've noticed in the summer it's especially bad. My allergies flare up on like levels I can't control, and all week it was threatening to do that. Even during the metal cast a little bit, I was like, oh god, I hope I don't have a sneezing attack or something. And that's like where I kind of, and people aren't going to know this reference, but I kind of like Mr. Bandy and like sneeze out like 20 sneezes in a row.
That is so funny that you throw out that reference, because literally no one else is going to know what that is. Mr. Bandy was a teacher in middle school. He taught, was it U.S. history?
Yes, he did. He was a history teacher who I'm pretty sure snorted coke.
And he was also a PE teacher as well. But yeah, Mr. Bandy had like these legendary sneezing fits where he would just sneeze like 20, 30, 50 times in a row. And you just sit there, and people, like, we would all count them.
Oh, yeah, it was an event every time it happened, man. But I just didn't want to do that on your podcast. So like, there's times on that where I notice like I'm like pushing up against the center of my nose just to prevent the feeling of having to sneeze. And then like I want to say probably like 40 minutes in, the feeling and the need to sneeze finally like dissipated, like I had beat it. And then the rest of the episode was really quite relaxing. But that lead up was bad. But Brando, enough chit-chatting about the random land and all the cool things we do. I was so happy to do Game Addicts with you, by the way. I just want to say that. Today, I think this has maybe been my most anticipated episode we've done in like a long time. Even maybe in some ways even more than 150, just because of what today's topic is, you know?
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this movie for a long time. It's probably been like, as far as like movie oriented shows, my most look forward to probably since BVS. Simply because like that movie was so anticipated for me. Well, okay, and then maybe even before that, you could go to Star Wars, Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens was awesome.
I couldn't wait to talk about it. Well, this is almost on that level, because we are going to talk today about Spider-Man: Homecoming, and both of us have seen the movie. I saw it on Saturday, and then I want to say you saw it just a few days ago, right?
We went and saw Monday, like 4:15 showing, and we walked into the theater right when previews were starting. There were a couple there was some movie called Daddy's Home 2 with Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell that looked really hilarious, and a lot of different random trailers. They shockingly did not show Thor Ragnarok trailer, but they did show a Justice League trailer.
That's funny.
So it's like I didn't make any sense out of the reason that they but we did get an awesome 3D Black Panther trailer that was stunning, and I am very excited for that movie to be coming out next year. And that really kicks off next year's Marvel takeover. You know, like, it's on.
Yeah. Now, Spider-Man came out a few weeks after Wonder Woman, and we really haven't talked about Wonder Woman here on the air because both of us at this point haven't seen it. And it's not that I don't want to, but with having a toddler, it's very difficult for us to go to a movie. We have to find either the time and money, both at the same time, to set aside to have someone watch our kid and have us be able to go to the movie. And unfortunately for us, we have to pick and choose now which ones we were going to go see. And I picked Spider-Man. I wanted to see Spider-Man more, but apparently Wonder Woman's killing it, man. Wonder Woman, it has surpassed BVS's domestic. And it is just doing killer, man. It is absolutely slaying at the box office. It's getting all the rave reviews that we were hoping that, BVS was going to get, and it did not. But Wonder Woman seemed to have knocked it out of the park. They're already looking at a sequel, Nate, and I'm not going to tangent off here because we're really known for tangents, but apparently they're having some issues because Warner Brothers didn't sign in the director of the original movie and for a sequel because they weren't too 100% sure. I would say probably have the same issue as like maybe Fox had with Deadpool, where they were like, all right, let's do this, but we don't have too much faith in it because of how the others have kind of come across, especially with Man of Steel and the Suicide Squad. So yeah, they were like, all right, we're committed to doing the movie, but we're not committed to any long-term planning yet. And then it's the movie that every single DC fan has been wanting. And it does exactly probably what a DC movie needs to do, and probably the first movie since the Nolan trilogy to be able to put out a really good, awesome DC superhero movie.
It has the best. I was reading an article just a few minutes ago before we went on the air. It has the best like burnout, as it were. So like movie percentages usually after the first week, like I'm sure Spider-Man is going to kind of do the same thing that Wonder Woman did, where next week when we go through the numbers, Spider-Man will decrease just a little bit, but it'll still probably be the number one movie.
Yeah.
And then it'll decrease a little bit. Well, Wonder Woman has the best decrease of sales out of any superhero movie ever.
Honestly, it's an awesome thing to see that because it's like more and more and more people are going to go see this movie. It's like, and you get people who are going to see it multiple times, which is really cool. Which in today's movie-going society, with how expensive it can be to go see a movie, that is really cool and a really neat feat to get. And some movies, probably not outside big, major, super blockbuster movies like your Star Wars or something like that, they have trouble getting that kind of commitment from people to go see it multiple times. But with this, I feel like in a ways it shocked people because they weren't really expecting it.
Yeah, and I think Gal Gadot is a phenomenal Wonder Woman.
Oh, you mean Gal Gadot?
Yeah, Gal Gadot. Thank you, Blaine, for that one, man. Oh. And then I think he texted me or maybe he Facebook messaged me. He's like, I've never heard the name said out loud before, man. Get off my nuts. And I was just like, it's fine. I just have to ball bust you a little bit there,
Gal Gadot.
Gal Gadot. That's beautiful, Over in Israel, they call her Gal Gadot.
Now, Spider-Man was the first movie to dethrone Wonder Woman, right?
Yeah, it was. And I tell you, Brando, I don't really know how to get into this, but just to start this as a rapid reaction before we really get down to this, this is the closest thing to the best Spider-Man movie I could ever want. And it's for totally different reasons, in my opinion, almost a little bit better than Spider-Man 2, which in my opinion is still revered as one of the greatest superhero films of all time. They did a great job of balancing the duality of Peter Parker and Spider-Man in that film, and like the being his normal self, being the superhero, the evolution of Molina's transformation of Doc Ock from like good to super evil. But this movie, man, like, just to come out firing, and I want to get your opinion on this for sure, but like, did it feel like when you finally saw this movie, you were like, shit, oh, well, I guess I know the answer for you because you said you hadn't seen any trailers for Spidey, right?
I saw the first one, but I refused to watch any more after that.
Okay.
Or maybe I saw the second one too, but I did not watch the third trailer at all. In fact, it was on the show that I was mentioning how upset I was that they released another trailer. Because I've actually heard this from other people who have like done videos or done reactions that a lot of the movie's spoiled in the trailers. There's a good percentage of it that isn't, but pretty much all the big major plot points you can get from that. And I haven't gone back to watch the third trailer to see if that is true, but if that is the case, that just feeds into what I was angry about. It's like I'm tired of seeing more and more of the movie before the movie comes out. You know,
yeah, I think they need to get better about the mysticism of the movie. Don't give too much away, you know?
I understand you're trying to drive people the closer, like, you know, first trailer, gauge interest. Second trailer, a little bit more, sprinkles, if you will. Third trailer, this is the home run hit. We got to get the people out to see this movie. Now, like, some movies need that, I guess, you know, but... For example, like the bigger movies don't, and I really don't think Spider-Man needed it, not after Civil War. I don't think you needed it at all. I think people were just going to be generally intrigued to see what this new Spider-Man movie was going to be, even with just one or two trailers. Because look at what happened with The Force Awakens. They had two trailers. You had the teaser, and then you had the actual trailer, and that was it. We all thought we were going to get another one as we got closer, and we didn't.
Nope.
And so we were all wondering. We were all nervous. We were all sitting there sweating, you know, day one. That's a whole different thing, but that people wanted to go see that movie. And I think if you can really drive home some of this mysticism, you know, it's the same thing with BVS. That BVS showed a lot in their trailers too. So like,
yeah,
and had a lot of really cool moments that are in the movie, but then it's like they're out of context. So then like you start shaping the movie in your head what it's going to be before you go see it. And sometimes is that what you shape in your head is better than the movie that ends up coming out.
Well, I think the interesting thing to say about this is I want to come from a different perspective. You said you've been hearing people talk about how a lot of the movie is spoiled, and I was actually blissfully surprised that, to me, not a lot of the movie was spoiled in those trailers. I thought that in my head I had a clear-cut vision that the Washington sequences were going to be the end of the movie. Like that he was going to have this whole growing pains, lose the suit for a while, gain it back, and then defeat Vulture. Not how it was where he didn't have the Stark Tech suit to do so. Mm-hmm. This movie did great because not only did, in my opinion, the trailers not give you too much, and while they could have done a better job of like lessening it, like the thing that bothers me now is that you get so many spoilers that aren't even necessarily from trailers. With toys coming out and stuff like that, lines get spoiled, and it's like you knew there was going to be a shocker in the movie, and he wasn't really featured, but I think for like 2 frames in one of the trailers. And I was excited, like, man, and then I saw the action figure, and I was like, oh, they didn't really put any thought into how he looks. He kind of looks shitty. Oh, okay. You know, and it is what it is. But this movie did a really great job of hiding a twist. And when the twist dropped, I honestly wasn't expecting it, Brando. Like, it was one of those things that, spoiler alert, folks, if you're listening to this episode of Journey into Comics right now, we are about to spoil the Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. It just came out. We're going to be diving into all the details and digging up all these things, talking about Easter eggs and stuff. So this is your last chance. If you haven't seen Spidey yet, you might want to turn back, but you're a fucking grown-up, so if you're going to listen... Well, you might not be a grown-up. I'm sorry, kid. Oops.
Did you just did you just assume their age?
I guess I am an ageist. Jesus.
You're ageist.
You know? Like, that's me. I'm a fucking ageist.
There are kids in the
Don't
audience,
quote
and
me
you're
on
over
that.
here dropping F-bombs.
My bad.
We've been trying to teach
Why
my
did your-
kid to not say bad words. He
Oh, well.
he can say "oh heck" or "heck" and "oh gosh," which him saying "oh gosh" is like the cutest thing ever.
Yeah.
He because he doesn't always say the G. Sometimes it's like comes out as like a D. So he's like "oh dosh," or like "oh dosh." Like because like what happened before we started recording, we put him to bed earlier, and my wife yelled at me to come look at him, and he was standing in bed completely naked. He'd taken off his shirt, pants, diaper, everything. He's completely naked. Thankfully, no messes. But then we were like kind of scolding him, like, you don't do that. And he goes, "oh, dosh."
And you're like, oh, damn it.
Oh, dude,
You're so cute.
I had to turn away because it made me laugh. Like his reaction to it, to us scolding him, "oh, dosh." like of course, I'm not supposed to do this. Like I don't even know why I did. Anywho, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna spoil this movie. I do assume that the twist that you're referring to ends up with someone being someone's dad.
Yeah, man. And I tell you what, there, in my opinion, hasn't been a tenser moment in movies in a long time. Because it was so, I was not expecting it. They don't allude to it at all. And
No.
actually, like, you kind of forget in the early part of the movie when, actually the very beginning of the movie, when Keaton is showing the drawing that we find out who draws later in the movie, I kind of forgot that point. I was just like, oh, he has a kid, whatever, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's just a thing. But Brandon, right out of the gate for Spider-Man, we have something that is gigantic that I feel if our podcast does not cover in great detail, that we're not doing our job as quote-unquote reporters of this news. So I want to get your opinion on this. How do you feel about the largest plot hole in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that you could drive a boat through?
Which one are you referring to?
Well, here's the math for you, my friends.
Oh, are you talking about like where the movie takes place?
In the MCU timeline, because technically this movie should either this movie pushed the Avengers to happen in 2010, or this movie is set in 2020, and neither of those statements are true. So what the fuck, Marvel? What happens is that they're talking about the cleanup from the Battle of New York, and that's the beginning of the movie, and
Yeah.
it's, Adrian Toomes' crew cleaning up, and you've got Shocker 1.0 and Shocker 2.0 there. Herman Schultz is the Shocker 2.0. He's the actual Shocker from the comics. I don't remember 1.0's name, but he just looks like Tom Hardy, so much so that I was like, oh shit, they actually put Tom Hardy in this because they're going to have Venom? Fucking cool. And then I realized it wasn't him at all.
You did see it in 3D, so you might have had your eyes crossed.
A little bit, yeah. But they say 8 years later.
Mm-hmm.
And 8 years from the Battle of New York from 2012 would be 2020. But we know the Battle of New York happened in 2012, which means where's the flub? And actually, I did read an article. Kevin Feige came out and said, look, man, when we were doing these movies, we were kind of putting them as if they were in a real-life timeline. We never really said. But in our universe, we never really said when the dates were. This movie solidifies the timeline to be that in our verse, 8 years ago from 2017 was the Battle of New York. So they kind of changed their own timeline because Kevin Feige can and because what he says goes. And that's about the best I have for you folks. Like, I don't really know. I don't hate it, but I understand the divisiveness of it because They want to fit this character into a real timeline. Tom Holland is a certain age. He might be the first superhero that we grow up with into an older character. I mean, think if they would have cast Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr. when he was Tom Holland's age.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and he was just into his mid-20s at this point. You know, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
And that's like the universe they intend on setting up, it seems.
Yeah, you see that whole timeline thing doesn't really bother me much because, as you said, they never really clarified time. I mean, other than, you know, Captain America the first one taking place, you know,
World War II.
World War
We
II.
know.
Yeah, so it's like they always, because some of the movies say like current day. They don't actually say like what, time, date, year.
I think the only other time date we have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I'll have to probably go back. Well, actually, there's a couple. Earth 1988 with Guardians.
Okay, yeah.
We know Quill is there in 88 at that age. And then we also get 1981, I think, in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
With a younger Hank Pym talking to Howard Stark, actually. Man, Brando, Spider-Man Homecoming just delivered on all cylinders. To kind of start picking it apart, let's start at the top. What did you think about Spidey, Tom Holland's performance, the Peter Parker performance? Just talking Tom Holland and his Parker / Spidey role. What are your takeaways from this movie?
I feel like this kid is like the perfect blend of what you want. Because, okay, if you look back at the other two actors who have played Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire was decent. And what I mean by that is that, he didn't do a bad job. And there's some spots where he really nailed it. But I really feel like Peter Parker is always like this, at times, really awkward individual. And when you look at all the different portrayals of Peter, they're all differently awkward, right? Like, for example, you have Toby, who is just like this really socially awkward kid that really doesn't say much, really always shy. And then he puts on the suit, and so now he's supposed to be... He never really got that attitude like Spider-Man gets, that wisecracking. Here, like, he would try, but it almost felt like it was forced. And Andy Garfield, he got that wisecracking feel down, and he put that into Peter's being uncomfortable and being awkward. Part of that, him being the wisecracking jokester, that's how he deals with being awkward. But this kid, I feel like he's got the perfect blend because he's like this awkward loser who then, when he puts on the outfit, he gets a little cocky. And, and then I like that because, number one, he's so young that it works. So you get some of the snipey little quick quips that Spider-Man would give out. But then to see this character grow up and to see him mature into that role is going to be really neat to see. I really feel like that this kid is they got the right kid and they snagged him up young, and they're going to hope to try and tie this kid down to multiple movies, and hopefully this kid will stick around for a while, because the thing is that as with any actor, the more that you do the role, it's like, what more can you offer to it? What more can you do with it? It's like, it's got to be what Downey's thinking, playing Tony Stark after all these years. He's been playing.
Well, I mean, he is now Tony Stark.
Well, but I mean, like, after 10 years, it's like, it's obviously, okay, here's a payday, but then it's like, as an actor, the more you do a role, the more you're tied into that role. And so what happens is that, like, not every actor can escape it. Like you know what I mean? Some actors revel in it, and it's like, I'll play this role to the day I die. I don't care. I love it. But then there's other people who's like, you know what? It's the Michael Keaton thing with Batman. He played him once, and then they came back for the sequel. Burton was involved. it was pretty cool. The movie was more about the villains than Batman. In that movie, there was really not a whole lot of like growth in the Batman character in Batman Returns, in which was one reason why Keaton declined to do another one. He's like, he didn't know what else more he could bring to the character. And then once Burton was out of the third movie, Keaton was out. He was like, only if Burton was here would I even consider doing a third one to finish off what he wants to do. But it also happened with, Christian Bale. 3 Batman movies. Yeah. He goes, I'm done. I can do this character no more. My throat hurts. And then it's funny because then afterwards he's like, he kind of has regret. It's like, oh man, I could have done one more maybe or whatever. But the Downey thing, the same thing with Chris Evans, and Captain. It's like, I know he kind of feels like, how much longer can he play that character? Sure, they have like these big movies planned out, and they have him under contract, sure. But it's like, after Infinity War, how many of these older Phase 1 guys are still going to be around?
I don't see that being the case, Brando. I see most of team. I think that we're going to essentially start to come into where it's almost like with the comics, there's a golden era, the silver age, and then the bronze era. The same is going to be said for our Avengers team. And right now we're looking at kind of like the golden era of the Avengers. I feel like Tom Holland's Spider-Man is going to be a cornerstone of like of Gen 2, the silver age, as it were. Which, Marvel is going to be a way fine-oiled machine by the time they're into, the Phase 4 rebuilding of the Avengers. You're going to have people like Sebastian Stan, who can take the role over as Captain America if they need be. You can introduce different people to be an Iron Man if you really need to have that character, which I personally don't think the MCU would suffer without Iron Man. I think that I watched it happen in Spider-Man Homecoming, that as great as Tony Stark's role was, it wasn't pivotal for him to be a part of that movie because he wasn't. He was very rarely used in that movie, and that was the genius of it,
Well, I also saw somewhere online where someone's like, what could you do potentially if Downey was wanting to kind of step away? And somebody, or it was written in maybe like an article, where one of the things that you could do is that you could DH him so that you could recast him. I don't want to see that. But one thing I saw was get a new Iron Man, have it be a girl. I can't remember her name, but the newer Iron Woman character. You know who I'm talking about, right?
I do. I can't recall her to get into that series so much, but that was a part of Marvel Now. They did the whole crazy rebrand, different people in different roles, and it was cool. And I would have no qualms with having an Iron Woman, Iron Man, as it were.
Well,
my thing.
Hold on.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, here's the thing: is that do you know who her computer AI is?
Jocasta.
Is
that who you're talking about?
Her computer AI was Tony Stark.
Oh, yeah, I did know that. And that would be a genius way to keep Downey around.
Because then you could just bring him in like a voice role. He could come in, do his parts. He doesn't really have to stick around. He doesn't have to be on set. And you have this weird little symmetry with how, like, Tony was in the suit, Jarvis was the AI, Jarvis becomes Vision, becomes real life. Tony was in real life, either dies or something happens to him where he ends up backing up his mind into an AI form and becomes the new AI for the next Iron Man, Iron Woman, Iron Person.
I think that would be cool. Now, if they chose not to go that route, the thing that I think is going to be really neat about the MCU Phase 4 and beyond is, like, you're going to have, like, your Guardians team is going to be very special, and they're, like, a cornerstone as a changing of the guard. But you're going to have, like, Captain Marvel debuting. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Black Panther is debuting. Ant-Man and the Wasp is about to start filming in the next, like, month or so, from what I hear. Like, it's a busy time in the Marvel world. By the time the Infinity War story wraps in 2019, there will be 22 movies in the cinematic universe, and that's it at that point. And that's one story that they told over the course of 22 movies.
And apparently, the sequel to Homecoming, Spider-Man: Homecoming, is going to be the beginning of Phase 4.
It's after the end of the Gauntlet is what I think they're going to be calling Part 2 of the Infinity series. Now, my thing would be, man, honestly, how cool would it be if Part 1 of the Infinity War is more kind of, not really horror film based, but like Thanos really fucking kills some of the Avengers. The end, on screen, you watch them die, that's it. There's no coming back from it. There's no fucking whatever that they did with director Coulson, Tahiti or whatever. Like,
Tahini.
Fucked that one up.
Utini. Fucking Jawa. Utini. Tahini.
They're gonna do in Phase 4. What?
You cut out really bad, so it sounded like you were doing Java noises again, but you were actually talking like "Utenga," but you're like a Japanese Jawa.
Oh Jesus! Do you have me now?
Yeah.
All I was going to elaborate on is just saying, moving forward in the MCU, I believe in Tom Holland, and I think he's going to be a great replacement for the cornerstone of the Avengers team. They set it up beautifully now where, you know, he denied the role, and I think that's brilliant because now he's going to almost have to be forced into that leadership role on the Avengers in the Infinity story. And then by 2, he's going to be an Avenger who also is just Spider-Man. And how cool is that, the duality of that? Because then you get little cool Easter eggs like the other members of the Avengers calling him like, hey, man, we need you real quick. And him showing up. What's up? Oh, this is a problem you guys could probably solve without me. I'll take off. I have to go deal with Doc Ock 2.0 or whoever.
All right, so like let's get right back into like kind of like decide, because you kind of jumped around a little bit here. Let's kind of dissect the plot just a little bit, because it starts off with the Tombs reconstruction and them salvaging some of this alien tech. So that instantly, this movie buries itself into the MCU. There's no question. Spider-Man he's in the universe. It's no accident. Like them placing the beginning of this movie right after the first Avengers movie buries it and it sticks the pole in the sand. This is an MCU flick, you know. And so Keaton's character Toombs gets screwed out of the contract for the cleanup, and so pretty much they are told that they have to start turning over every single bit of tech that they found, alien tech, and they don't, because then they start making weapons out of them. So he becomes an illegal arms dealer with this alien tech, and over the next 8 years makes a very healthy living being an illegal arms dealer. And of course they end up making this outfit, which ends up becoming like the Vulture outfit. And I thought it was a really cool way to tell the Vulture story. Completely different. Really sets him like both. They did it with both Toombs and Spider-Man and other characters as well, by changing fundamentally who and what these characters are. This is sometimes when you get a film adaptation of a comic book character, it's different. This is even more different than that. This is like taking the original concept for some of these characters, and then for the MCU's purpose, completely rewriting them. So it's like when you would get a Miles Morales type story, where he's a completely new character. He's still Peter Parker, but this is like how you have the Amazing Spider-Man run, and then over here you have the Incredible Spider-Man, or whatever you want to call him, Now this is the offshoot. This is the alternate reality kind of version of this, and that kind of changes the aspects. It gives the writers a chance to completely rearrange the universe and tell the story in a different way, and change the story arcs with some of these characters, because it completely rearranges like everything. I mean, Flash Thompson's not the same.
Well, no, he's not the same kind of bully, but I love that they did that in a way that was like how it is in real life now.
Yeah.
Like, when you think of bullies, yeah, it's cool to think about, like, the big, like this dude's 6'8", and he probably shouldn't be in high school 20 years after he should have graduated. Why are you being a bully? But, like, it's more grounded in realism that it's just some prick who's just kind of an asshole, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of how it is. One thing I want to say this movie did a really brilliant job on was it made the MCU drenched in reality.
Yeah.
Like, this is a real take on Spider-Man. They didn't make Toomes look like some goofy fucking costumed character. There was zero chance that anybody would ever compare him to Green Goblin, which I think some people were maybe a little bit concerned with when they were doing the original Spider-Man series and they were going to do Spider-Man 4. They were like, well, we're going to have another green-colored villain. What the fuck? But in this, it was really beautifully done because it is so... Some little... I'm going to walk through this. There are a couple Easter eggs here early on in the movie that I want to talk about. Damage Control takes over for Toomes. That's actually a comic book. That was a real cleanup crew that was dealing with the events that happened behind the Avengers saving cities and stuff. So for them to just drop that little egg of knowledge in was like, yes, thank you. You didn't just say it was the FBI's getting it with help from Tony Stark. They're like, no, Damage Control is taking over, bitch. And I loved that. But to get back to it, we jump forward to 8 years later, Brando, and I tell you, right out the gate, they made this movie really fun because get POV Spider-Man. And it's like Tom Holland, and he's filming, you know, essentially like he is filming everything that happened leading up to the events of Civil War. So he, you know, is bringing his old duds. You know, he goes to his hotel room. I love the line. The briefcase. You didn't go into your room? Oh, I thought this was the whole room. Oh, like, he was just hanging out in this small little area, and of course Stark pimped him out with some big suite. But the thing I loved was, in the actual Civil War footage, if you side by side them, which I watched a video where somebody did, they fixed it up pretty. Like, what he's doing in Homecoming, which was not filmed during the events of Civil War, line up with how they filmed Civil War, like, shot for shot. It's really well done. What did you think about that callback to Civil War and all the POV stuff in the early goings of this film?
I liked it because it served as like the origin for this movie of the character, because essentially by introducing the character in Civil War, we don't get a real proper origin for this character. Now, granted, okay, we've seen two separate movie series, the original Maguire trilogy, and then the Amazing films. So we understand dude gets bit by a spider. You know, it's just like, you know, Batman, parents die. You know, you see it in every single iteration. But to the same extent, it's like they relegate him getting bit by the spider down to a passive conversation. You don't see it, you just hear about it. It was really creative how they did that, but what this is, them showing the scenes from Civil War, it's reestablishing this character in scenes that you've seen from a different perspective, adding more layers to the character. And then adding the interaction between him and Happy.
Yeah, which that was awesome. Like, just my fucking responsibility. Will you lay off? you know, and he's like, he pretty much avoids Parker for the majority of the movie, and that was one little plot device weird that he picked up right away. But like every other time, it went to Will Smith. That one time, why was it different that one time, you know? But moving deeper into the movie, you know, after that, we have Peter Parker just being a kid. He's going to school. He's doing his thing, you know? He's a part of the, what do you call that, Brando? They're the really smart kids. They, I can't remember what that's called. I don't at one point in my life, and I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
Scholastic Bowl.
Scholastic Bowl, thank you. Yes, they're on the Scholastic Bowl. And the one thing that I love... What?
You are cutting out so bad for like the last 10 minutes.
Oh, man.
Basically, if anybody can do any sort of predictive thought, they can pretty much make out what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
But on that one, it was really funny because you cut out, and then when you came back, you went, and then you cut out again. so you went, Scholastic Bowl, that's what it was. Then cut back out again. Oh, man.
What I was saying is that they are going to nationals in Washington, D.C., and with them going, Parker's like, I can't. I got to be here for the Stark internship, which is his cover for being Spider-Man.
Yep.
And waiting for Tony to tell him he needs to be an Avenger. And that's like this thing that the movie hinged on. When the hell is Parker going to become an Avenger? When are they going to give it to me? All I want is my shot to prove myself to be on this great team. And I love that the way they kind of told that story within this movie too.
Yeah, I really, it's something that built for the whole movie, and they really use his interactions with Tony and Happy. Now, see, there's so many things in this movie that made you like for some, like, what is it with Tony and people around Tony wearing the stupid hat?
Oh yeah.
I mean, obviously, as a film, it builds the tension, and it makes Spider-Man have to do everything by himself. Even when he loses his suit, we'll get there. He's got to, you know, is he going to quit or is he going to keep going? No, he's going to keep going, and so he's going to have to resort back. Now, let's stop for a second because Kevin Feige has confirmed that Parker has Spidey sense, but we do not see it in this film.
No, it's almost like second nature. You don't need to be told. I guess that's one thing he kind of said is like, yeah, the other series they've done with Spider-Man heavily relied on the spider sense, and it should just be second nature that you should know that Parker has that, and his reactionary times are going to be swift.
Well, here's the thing. They don't even talk about it. Here's the thing. You can mention it and see him. You can show it a few times or whatever. Some big thing that lets you know. Oh, yeah, he's got this. They don't even allude to it, and they use the whole Stark suit to change it up. So therefore, people were like, "Does he have it or not?" And so it became a question. We've even talked about this. I don't remember if we talked about it on the air, but you said that they were going to replace the spider sense with tech.
Yeah, that they had talked about that, and I kind of said, no, that's not really how it is. It's kind of that, but it's not quite that. It's really weird because they did a really good job with the suit doing a certain thing. Then in the movie later, when you lose the suit, it's like he became more Spider-Man. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there are aspects that I liked. It gave it like another level of him having that like super teched up suit. Now, let's kind of come back and let's talk about the fact that Spider-Man has a friend that knows his secret.
I loved that it was just like that. I think that's one thing, again, the other Spider-Man movies kind of hinged on was this whole idea that not a lot of people know who Parker is really. And while they had done a good job so far in the MCU of keeping that a secret, the way that they let Ned Leeds figure it out, because they made the plans. Ned said, hey, man, I'm going to come over later. We're going to finish the Death Star. It's not his fault that Parker went to stop that bank robbery gone wrong that blew up that city block.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his fault. He was sitting there waiting for Pete to show up, had no idea where Pete was at. And when Pete shows up, not even remembering, why would you remember making plans when you just fucking had to go fight the Avengers in a bank? Which I love that they talk about, like, oh, Thor, Hulk, nice to meet you finally. Like, because they weren't in Civil War. It was such a, just you're keeping it grounded in the realism that this has happened and all this story is interconnected. And I love it. You know, all the finite little details. You know, that's where it really starts with this whole, the tech. And the tech is driving this movie of, like, all this terrible stuff's happening. But then Parker drops in from his ceiling after being super quiet. And he's faced with his buddy Ned, who I think said shit, right? And then dropped the Death Star.
Yeah.
He was like, shit. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I really like the comedic aspect of the interaction between the two characters, because until that point, that relationship like really didn't interest me. But when Ned finds out, and then through Ned, he's almost like the viewer of the movie asking all these questions, and that's how you get the "I got bit by a spider" story out of him. You know, that's how you find out some of this information, and then he starts like asking all these ridiculous questions that you would ask, like when you find out that your friend is this badass superhero, you know, practically an Avenger, as they say. He geeks out, and I really liked that interaction.
And actually, Ned asks a couple questions right there out the gate that are a little bit of Easter eggs that are hidden in here too that I don't even know if you would have caught. He asks if he can control an army of spiders, right?
Yeah.
That is actually canon from Superior Spider-Man. Doc Ock's Spider-Man fucking creates these little spider bots. They're actually carried over from the Spider Island story that they did in Amazing Spider-Man 666. But when they moved into having him come back to become Superior Spider-Man, he made those bots like essentially what he used to help save the city, and they were an integral part of that. Now Parker had one in his suit, just one, so that was a nice little Easter egg callback. But then Ned also asks, "Do you spit venom?" Which venom, you know, like that's all you can really need to say is venom, 100 million times. So Ned's character was awesome. It's weird because Ned Leeds in the Marvel Cinematic, or not in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as opposed to his comic book character, are different characters. Ned Leeds is a part of the Clone Saga and has some ties to the Jackal. That's not the case in this movie. Ned Leeds is kind of more of a character that they kind of borrowed from the Ultimate Spider-Man Miles Morales universe.
Well, there's somebody else that they borrowed from that as well.
Oh, yeah? You want to tell me who it be?
Well, it would be a certain prospective gun buyer.
Well, that's actually an interesting thing that they did there, because it wasn't revealed even in the movie who this character was. It was like a whole, if you didn't know the Marvel mythos, you would have totally missed Aaron Davis's name being mentioned. You would have I have a cousin or a nephew in these neighborhoods, which is alluding to Miles Morales. Now, Aaron Davis becomes the who is a Spider-Man who appeared in Amazing Spider-Man 7-9.
Repeat that whole thing.
Aaron Davis, who is the Prowler.
The Prowler, because it almost sounded like you said the Proctor.
No, the Prowler.
Okay.
He debuted in Amazing Spider-Man 78 and 79.
You just cut out right when you said the proc, and almost the way it cut out, it didn't sound like. In my mind, I finished it as Proctor, and like, I am the Proctor.
Ooh. With my white glove. Slaps the band on his wrist. Bend over, Spidey. You know. Let me grab my petroleum jelly.
Well, I'm gonna check to see how you spin your webs.
Oh, gross. Oh, that's horrendous in the best way. But yeah, there's actually another arms dealer, and you might have been alluding to them too.
We just totally created a villain for the Baller Minutia suck.
Yes.
The Proctor.
Oh damn. That's. Oh shit. Okay. We also get a name drop, and then we get to see him on screen. Mac Gargan. Brandon, do you know who Mac Gargan becomes?
He becomes the one and only Scorpion.
Fuck yeah, one of my favorite Spider-Man villains first appears in Amazing Spider-Man number 20.
Number 20.
Also, I forgot to mention, Vulture first appeared in Amazing Spider-Man number 2.
Number Dose?
No, Dose. He was the first actual Spider-Man villain created because Chameleon, I think, was borrowed from another, maybe Fantastic Four, actually, was where Chameleon debuted before he was the Amazing Spider-Man first villain. Whoa. Pungent aromas coming from my cat's cat box. Wow. Anyways, back to this. So we get a teaser for Scorpion. We have Shocker. We've got Vulture. We're building a. So let's just fucking admit it already. How awesome would that be if they spun this movie off to do the originally planned Sony Sinister Six under the direction of Marvel? I mean, you're building that universe. Might as well go all out, right?
Yeah. Notice that nothing whatsoever in this movie did you hear anything at all about Oscorp.
Yeah, that is kind of weird to note. Do you think that they maybe had a little bit of Osborn fatigue, as it were?
Well,
Harry is so heavily featured in that first trilogy, and then Harry on a smaller scale with a dying Norman is in the second movie, which they were going to maybe set up something bigger for the Amazing series.
I mean, it's definitely possible. I think it would have been pretty cool to just hint at it as how, like, maybe Oscorp is like a rival for Stark Industries. It would have been it would have been nice for an Easter egg at least, but it's obvious that they're trying to stay away from that because they're trying to tell some new stories that have not been told in the movies. Because when you get to the point where it's like, okay, so like you had, the very first Batman movie. The first Batman movie ever, besides the old 66 era movie. This is your opportunity to tell a Batman story. What villain are you going to choose for the first one ever? Well, you're going to pick the Joker. It's his arch rival. It's his nemesis. When they went back and
You have to.
when they redid Batman for Batman Begins, they didn't start with the Joker. They went and they did a more like, let's do the real origin story and do Bruce training, and then we can have, Ra's al Ghul. And then the teaser at the end. All right, they're getting to the Joker. Now, coming into the next iteration of Batman, they're doing it differently. Joker's there, but he's not like he's not going to be the main villain of like the standalone Batman film. And so they're including him in other ways, so that leads it to like they're doing something different. They're doing a villain that hasn't been done on the big screen before. They're doing Deathstroke. So with Spider-Man, what we got, in the original trilogy, who do we get? We got Green Goblin, then we got Ock, and then we got Goblin,
Sandman,
Venom. So now, in this one, we got Vulture, we got Shocker. Neither one of those that we get before. And then, okay, hold on. We did get Electro in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yep.
And then we got Rhino.
Lizard.
Yes, Lizard. Yes, for the very first one. Yes, I'm sorry. Lizard was the first one. Electro was the second one, and Rhino, and then Goblin. So now we're doing Vulture and Shocker again. It's totally new, and from what I've heard, also the like the Scorpion tease. So there's another new one, and so then
and the Tinkerer.
Yeah, and then that as well. But then we also get. I've heard that the villain of the next movie is going to be another villain never before seen on film.
Who could that be?
Mysterious this is.
Oh man, dude, don't tease that. Like, listen to me, Brando. Humbly, my opinion, they actually did that for the Spider-Man sequel, make Mysterio the main baddie. It would make my life, man. He's my favorite Spider-Man villain of all time. He's my earliest first appearance issue of Spider-Man that I own. And as long as if they did it right and cast fucking Bruce Campbell, it would be perfect. Just as a beautiful little Easter egg teaser callback to that OG time when they almost had him as Mysterio from that original Spider-Man movie. I think that would be really cool. Obviously, there could be a new, younger cast picked to do that, and they're really good about casting for the MCU. But that would be fucking awesome if it was if it was like Shocker, upgraded weapons, has a suit now, and then you've got Mysterio running rampant. He's kind of the ring leader, as it were, and Scorpion debuts. Shit. That'd be awesome.
We'll see. Like, I kind of feel like, Shocker kind of plays a similar role that he does in this movie, but amped up, because it's like he's not the lead villain. He's not the main thing. He's mainly like a distraction. He's like another big villain for their, to be in there, but he's not the main villain. And then I can see Scorpion kind of being in there in that same kind of way, like where he's not like a main villain. He's sort of like this side thing. He's got this tech that he has based off the, alien tech with this suit. But then you have Mysterio doing his own storyline. Maybe they weave in with the other one. Maybe they don't. Maybe the other two are just leftover from the first one, that like they're still out there, or the Scorpion got out, because we're going to talk about that towards the end of the movie. But yeah, also what would be really cool is if they have Bruce Campbell in the movie, but he doesn't play Mysterio, but you see him and you go, oh, wow. Oh wait, he's not playing Mysterio. It's almost just kind of like a psych out type thing.
Oh, if they did a good job of like hiding the reveal of who Mysterio is.
Right. And then so when you first see him, see Campbell, you're like, oh, he played the dude from the original trilogy. The big rumor was that he was Mysterio. And then it ends up not being him. Like, he's just a dude that just like can't hold down a job.
That's all. The end.
Yeah. I think that would be absolutely hilarious.
I would be down with that. So to get back to where the story kind of goes, we kind of made a little tangent there with some of the baddie stuff, but we get to the point here where, well, Parker wants to know what's going on, and he's now trying to figure out what's up with this tech and who's using it and what's going on. As you said, we had an arms deal go wrong with the Shocker 1.0 and Aaron Davis. And Vulture shows up and picks off Parker like it ain't no thing. Parker ends up kind of getting rescued because he should have technically died because he was drowning to death by Iron Man. And you're like, whoa, here we go. Tony's in the movie. Business is picking up. It's not just that one scene we saw in the trailer. And they're discussing things back and forth. I put everything in your suit, kid, even this heater. Oh, whoa, wow, that's warm, nice. But then Stark is not there. He's like in India on some retreat, partying it up.
Yeah, wearing these special glasses that like allow him to see what his suit is seeing.
Yeah. Obviously, he tells, Parker, just keep being a kid. Be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Don't worry about the big vulture dude that just fucked with you. Leave him alone. There are other people that will handle him. Don't worry. And I love that sentiment of like, Parker, you are also a hero, but that's too big for you. Leave it alone. Don't fuck with it. And really, it becomes his responsibility to fuck with it. And, Parker tracks down that Aaron Davis guy again. He finds out that there's going to be a deal made on the ferry. Here comes the famous ferry scene we've seen in the trailers. It goes how you would expect. Everything goes wrong. Parker has had Ned help him upgrade the suit. So the training wheels mode is off.
Yeah, that was really funny. That was really funny when they were trying to hack into the suit.
Yeah.
And then there's these hidden programs like training wheels, and then when the suit activates and she's all like, glad to see that you've completed all the necessary training protocols, and then he's learning how to use the suit in tandem with the AI. That was very entertaining. That was really funny.
Now, interestingly enough, here's a little again, folks, tangent Easter egg city, but the casting for Karen is very interesting. And do you know about this, Brando?
She is the wife of, I can't remember the name of the actor, but the dude that played Jarvis.
Paul Bettany, yes.
And Paul Bettany, and now, of course, he plays Vision. So, Paul comes in playing Jarvis, and then she comes in playing Karen.
The crazy thing about that is that there is another AI that exists that Karen could be. And they might bring her to the screen, and it would be a long overhaul payoff that would take a long time. It really would. But they could turn Karen into Jocasta, who was a minion of Ultron, AI created by Ultron, which was dropped in Age of Ultron. I think you see the Jocasta protocol or something's on the screen at one point. And they could bring her to life like they did Vision. I don't know how you would do that without the same thing that Vision was created with, but Jocasta became a full-time Avenger at one point. So it is full possible that this is kind of the start of that. They didn't pick that actress, who is, I can't think of her name, Jennifer Connelly maybe, but that doesn't sound right. I think it is Jennifer Connelly. They did not pick her just randomly. You don't pick somebody of her caliber just to play some voice.
Yeah.
They're long-term planning, and I think that long-term plan is most definitely to turn her into a character, and her and Paul could be on screen together. And how cool would that be?
That would be neat.
But yeah, as you said, the tandem of learning how to use the suit, taser webs, learning he has all these different things. It's funny because she expects he's completed the training, so she's like, why don't you know this already? What? Don't you remember when we were training? Because she's been hacked, she assumes that he's already to that point.
Yep.
So he goes to this deal, the deal with Mac Gargan, where they're going to talk about his suit, and I don't know if they were going to bring that out and maybe turn him into the Scorpion in this movie, or if they were just kind of giving you that anticipation of wanting him to. I don't know what the deleted scenes are like. But, man, this deal goes so wrong, and it ends with Parker being the reason that the ship gets cut in half. it wasn't because of anybody else other than Parker when that gun starts to go off and he tried to stop it by way of just filling it with webs and then it kind of just blow up. Oops. And so, you know, that deal goes wrong. Tony once again shows up, saves the day. Pete's like, yeah, come on, man, like, can't do this. I'm confused here, Brando. Did the DC deal happen before the ferry? It did, actually. Everything that happened in DC predated the ferry, right?
Yeah.
Because he goes to the Scholastic Bowl finals and ditches on the team. They still win because they obviously don't need him. They have Michelle Jones.
Spider-Man kind of foils a robbery attempt a little bit.
Yeah.
With the Vulture and crew trying to rob some tech from the cleanup. I can't remember who'd you call him? Damage Inc.
Damage Control.
Damage Control. For some reason, I just kept thinking like Metallica, Damage Inc.
Damage Incorporated.
But then we have that whole scene where then he's stuck in the warehouse for like all night.
That was awesome.
And then he gets out, and then the whole thing in DC, and because after the whole thing at DC, Stark calls him up and then congratulates him.
Yeah. And he's just like, yeah, I'm just doing my thing. Everything's cool. Nothing to be concerned about here.
Yeah.
Well, that is very wrong, Pete, because those people almost died on that on the good old Washington Monument. Interesting. There was again another little Easter egg, subtle Easter egg to the comics. They always said in the Spider-Man comics, if there was ever a part in the comic book where there were no tall buildings for Parker to latch onto, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what they said as a way to explain that away?
What's that?
He was just swinging from a helicopter. There was just a helicopter, and he just used that, you know? So they kind of call back to that, using the helicopter to propel him to save the day. The Scholastic Bowl team that was celebrating their win gets saved by Pete unintentionally.
Including the girl that's sweet on Parker, and Parker's sweet on her. Or she's sweet on Spider-Man.
She's sweet on Spidey, doesn't know it's Pete, obviously. But she does at one point admit she likes him.
Yeah.
She does say, she's like, I like you, Pete, because obviously that's where we get into the third act of the movie here. But before that, there's a really interesting little callback scene because it almost was very much like Amazing Spider-Man 2, Liz falling. And I was like, oh, wow, they're going to kill her like they did Gwen Stacy. Holy shit. Which actually, Liz Allen first debuted in Amazing Spider-Man number 4. She is a real character. She is the earliest love interest of Parker, so they went super OG with that, and I got to appreciate that they did that. She's not a long-term love interest, obviously, and we learn a different reason for that why as opposed to what happens in the comic books. But he almost doesn't save her, but he ends up saving her. And then he kind of doesn't save himself.
Yeah.
Which I loved the kind of comic levity of that. It was such a serious moment. Like, oh my God, is anybody from this team going to die? Is Ned going to die? Which, oh, that's what happened. Fucking Ned had the power source that blew up.
Yeah.
There was a giant bomb on his back that he wasn't aware of that activated because of heat? Or what was it?
It was radiation.
Radiation, that's right.
And the stone...
He went through the scanner.
Yeah, or like his bag went through the scanner.
Like the TSA type scanner, which uses low-level radiation to x-ray what you're having your shit. That sounded way... sounded way worse than I meant it to.
Well, fill your brain with shit.
Fill your brain with shit, folks, right here on Journey into Comics. Congrats to those dudes, by the way. Black Suited Death successfully funded.
I know, dude. That's awesome. I'm super happy for those guys.
Yeah, undefeated streak, cold and strong. They actually started a podcast, too.
I heard that they were going to do that.
Episode 1 is up, The Comic Collective. I gave a little bit of constructive criticism and took some notes for them. It's only like a 28-minute episode, so it's not too long to listen to. You can get it on Podbean. So they're on our sister network, I guess we'd call that. So cool to have those guys doing that. But back to Spidey. Parker goes to the ferry, and that goes wrong. And this is where the movie's really picking up, and the shit's about to really hit the fan. Tony has to come and save the day. Tony has to weld that ship back together, and I still don't know how the fuck he did that. It would start to sink into the... It would have went into the water more, I think, and that was another little plot hole that was a little bit bothersome to me, but again, it wasn't that bad. It didn't take me out of the movie. Tony asked for the suit back, and there's a beautiful line, which was obviously in the trailers, which was a little bit frustrating. It was one of the few lines that I think they should have saved for the movie to not be spoiled. But it was, I'm going to need the suit back, and Pete goes, no, I'm nothing without that suit. Tony says, if you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it. And I love that line because it's like, man, Spider-Man is not the fucking suit. Spider-Man is you. You have to be the one that steps this up to the next level. You have to be the one that takes responsibility. It's not the suit that does any of that. The suit just allows you to do cool shit that you might not have been able to do before. But he became Spider-Man and was offered a spot to help the Avengers during Civil War because of who he was as Parker without the suit. So the ball goes into Peter's court. And as we start the third act, Brando, we finally kind of get the tinges of why they called this movie Spider-Man Homecoming, you know?
Yeah, there's like a dance thing.
Yeah, going to a homecoming dance.
Parker found a girl.
Got in her pants.
Well,
Not quite.
He got a little bit of dad blocked because when he went to go. Okay, so like there's a scene where Parker gets suspended or gets to detention for skipping out in D.C., got in trouble, ends up finally asking Liz to the dance, and she says yes. So then, he goes over to her house, all decked out with a suit and with the corsage. Bit of a more formal homecoming than like we ever had. I think ours were always semi-formal.
Yeah, they did. The only time it was like that super spiffy was for prom.
Yeah. So, now this is the house that we saw earlier. There was a house party where Peter was supposed to try and get Spider-Man to show up, and then he ended up ditching the party. That was the whole first weapons sale thing that he ended up foiling, because he ended up he dressed up as Spider-Man, and then he saw like he heard like an explosion, and there was some dude firing off those weapons. End up being like Shocker V1 or whatever.
Yep.
So he's back at his house, knocked on the door, rang the doorbell. Now, Nate, I love the way that they did it, but I called it right when they got to the house.
So the revelation of what was about to happen hit you.
Yes.
It did not hit me at all.
As soon as Aunt May left, which we need to talk about Aunt May after this.
We will. We'll get to Aunt May.
Because I just kind of realized we hadn't even talked about Aunt May. But all right, so like as soon as she left, I was like, oh shit. Okay, so like her parent. Oh shit. In my head, I'm like, oh, this is cool because they built this up in the perfect way. Toombs answers the door.
Oh man, in real time, I'm not lying. So like this happened. So I told you off air we took Oliver to the movie. So yeah. This was like the one moment in the movie where right before this happens, like 2 minutes, he had to go pee. So V had to take him to the bathroom. Right when she was walking down the stairs, the reveal happened. So Ollie is far enough away from me, and I just went, fuck. Because I was not expecting it. It was a beautiful twist. Parker knows who Toombs is.
Yeah.
He knows him by the face. He doesn't know who the fucking guy is, though. Liz Allen, you don't have any inkling to know who she is. But then, boom, the fucking reveal drops. Bam! Holy shit. The girl that fucking Peter Parker is hot for her dad is a fucking supervillain who's been fucking up Parker's day and pretty much his whole like past weeks.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude. It made it because I love how Tom Holland sold it.
Oh man, high intensity. He was fidgety. He was just like you would be in that situation.
Oh man, it was perfect. And then they had the whole thing of like he's like Keaton's playing like this lovable dad kind of character, which is awesome because you've seen him in different aspects. That it really humanizes the Vulture character by making him just a guy. And he's doing these things. And why is he doing these things? He's going
for
down
his family.
For his family. He is broke bad. And that's like the best analogy I can give. He's broke bad.
WW. Who do you think that could be?
Right. He went down
Walter
this
White?
path. He went down this path because he needed that job. He needed that job that he got screwed out of. That was money.
And he couldn't let his family down.
Exactly. He was doing everything he could to make sure that they could continue to have the kind of life that they've built. And obviously a very lavish life, a very well-to-do life. I mean, it's
Damn
not like,
right.
I mean, it's not like he's living in a mansion, but it's a very nice house. Very, very nice place. And so, like, and then, of course, you have all the interactions between, you know, the mom, the dad, the daughter. He's sort of playing the overprotective dad a little bit.
But it's still a shtick because he's trying to be playful with Parker.
Well, I don't think that he hasn't quite figured it out yet. Because when that kind of comes later in the car.
No, but what I'm saying is he was playing like the playful dad who was joking, like, oh, I'm going to kick your ass, Pete, if you don't treat my girl right, you know?
That thing. Okay, so then he offers him a drink. And then he goes, no, I'm not old enough to drink. He goes, good answer. And then later on, like, you know, like he's gonna drive them to the dance, and he is super, super like uncomfortable. And it's funny because they're posing for the pictures, and he won't take his eye off of Toombs. Will not, like, he has that death glare on him. And then like they get him in the car, and then Toombs says that he's leaving town, you know, and just kind of on his way. And they're in the car and they're talking and all this, like all these things. And then Liz kind of lets cat out of the bag that Pete knows Spider-Man. And then Toombs is like, oh, really? You know him, huh? How is he? You know? And he because obviously he's been dealing with all this crap. And then it kind of gets let out of the bag that he is in this. He's in the Stark internship program. And I love how they played it with the Keaton character, with the Toombs character, because he's not an idiot.
No, and he pieces it together like it's like the synapses firing in his brain, where moment by moment you can see him figuring out what is going on. This kid doesn't fucking know Spider-Man. That doesn't make any fucking sense. He is Spider-Man, and that's the only thing that makes sense. Because obviously, and then he's like, because now all of Pete's really weird quirks have come out in this almost like unintentional guilty. You're fucking guilty. Admit you're guilty. You're Spider-Man.
Well, see, he also kind of recognized his voice.
Also that too.
And so it's all these little different things. And they get to the dance, and then you know, he's like, he tells his daughter to go on. I'm going to give Pete the old talk, right? And then when she's gone, he pulls a gun out from like the glove box or something. And then he turns around and he just says, does she know? Does she know what? She doesn't. Okay. Keep it that way, you know? Whatever, however that line went. It was amazing. I love it. It's what you said before. That whole car ride. I mean, from the get-go, it was tense, but then it just slowly got more and more and more. And then they were on like level with each other. Peter talking to Toombs. It wasn't Spider-Man talking to Vulture. It was here. It was this awesome moment that you had that kind of mimicked the original Spider-Man movie, where you had Norman at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, coming to the realization of who Parker is.
Yes. It's the same but different. But this one, like the way they did it, Keaton really lit up this role. He was fantastic in this. He's been doing such a good job of everything that he's been doing lately. It makes me wish that there was a period where he didn't act for a while.
Yeah. And
it's like, man, he is so good.
Did you ever see Keaton in The Other Guys?
The Other Guys.
It's a Mark Wahlberg, Will Ferrell movie. They're cops, but they're really shitty cops who don't go save the day. They do paperwork. The Rock and Samuel L. Jackson are in it, and those characters kind of kill themselves. And it forces these guys to try to step up and be good cops. But the detective, or the captain of the police force, is Michael Keaton, and he also works at Bed Bath and Beyond. but while he's working at one point in the movie, they run into him at Bed Bath and Beyond. It's just a circumstantial thing. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell run into him, and while they're talking to him, he's quoting TLC, but he doesn't know he's quoting TLC. He's like, "Look, guys, with the Heisinger case, I'm just gonna be real honest. Don't go chasing any waterfalls. Just stick to the rivers and the lakes that you are used to." And they're like, "Captain, TLC," and he's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Anyways, guys, I got to get back to work, so don't creep. And they're like, "Nobody just says creep unless you're quoting TLC. What the fuck? What's going on?" He's like, I don't know what TLC is. I have no idea." It's a really funny role, but yeah, I wish he would have acted more. But I'm really glad that his Birdman was the resurgence of Michael Keaton, and now he's the definitive Birdman. He's the winged man, the ultimate wingman.
He also played the villain, the president or CEO of OCP in the remake of RoboCop.
Ooh, I didn't see that yet.
And then that movie is what it is. It's not like the greatest movie ever. Don't go into that movie thinking that, this is them redoing the first movie, because it is, but it isn't. It's something else. It's entirely almost kind of like a reimagining of it. So it's completely similar but different. I guess it's the only way that I could put it. But he kind of plays the villain of that movie by being the head of OCP, but he plays like this multifaceted character where he's like, he's the owner of the company. He's a very likable guy, and then you kind of realize that his motives are not entirely clean. So then he kind of plays kind of like a two-faced kind of guy. And the more that the movie kind of goes on, the more his corporate greed, the more everything kind of unravels. But with this character, as we said before, he really is doing everything that he's doing for his family. But he's also so far into it now that he's become obsessed with this life.
Correct.
In that he has had a few failures, and now it's becoming important for him to get some more of this tech. So what he's ended up going to do, and with him leaving town, he's going to do another robbery. He's going to try and do another heist, and he's going to end up robbing a plane. This is something that we haven't mentioned. Tony Stark sold the Avengers Tower.
Yeah, they're relocating to upstate New York. As we know, the new Avengers facility might as well take the Avengers and not base them in the middle of a major city where, bad guys will attack it. Just saying. You kind of brought that on yourself, Stark. You also brought that on yourself, Stark, with Ultron. Just saying. But yeah, man, there's a plane with all this tech, and it has lots of tech. You get kind of like an Ultron head and maybe like an Ultron arm And then you get like a bunch of arc reactors, and they mention, I'm not going to try to say it, but Thor's new belt. It's a super strength belt that they gave him in the comics. They're going to probably do that in the movie. I'm guessing he's probably going to have that. They talk about Cap's prototype shield that he's going to have. Lots of little Easter egg references in there, you know. Also with the storage container, I'm almost certain, don't quote me on this, it looked like I saw a Doc Ock arm in one of those tech containers when Parker gets stuck in the shipping container in the movie. But don't quote me on that. So yeah, Toomes is gonna go take this plane and take everything on it. It's his next big score, you know?
So that leads us to Pete deciding that he's not going to let this stand. He's going to go stop it. He's going to go rob the plane because he tried calling the Happy, and then Happy's wearing a stupid hat, not listening to Peter when he's supposed to be. Just like Tony not listening to Peter, and then them yelling at him when he does something. Typical Spider-Man problems, though. I mean, again, you know, people wearing the stupid hat, but without that, you wouldn't have a damn movie because Tony would just come save him every time.
Yep.
So, Pete has like a little stowaway hidden cubby underneath the lockers.
Yeah, which I love that. He lifts the lockers up, and he had his first suit 1.0 probably, a bunch of web fluid, which another little Easter egg, web fluid 3.0. This is the third iteration of Spidey. So that's the web fluid he's creating as a little nod that this is the third attempt. Mm-hmm. I love it.
And so he decides to go try and save the day. He enlists Ned's help. He runs into Shocker in behind the school. And Ned kind of saves the day there.
He's looking at porn.
Well, okay. You're getting ahead of yourself.
Ned... Oh, shit. I am getting ahead of myself. Sorry.
Shocker's all beating the hell out of Parker. And
Ned's over there looking at porn. out of context, that sounded really worse than it is. No, he picks up one of the web shooters that Parker had made. He shoots Shocker and stops Shocker from taking Parker out. Pete's like, thanks, man, I appreciate you. Now you got to be my guy in the chair. You wanted to be my guy in the chair? Now's your chance. Here you go. I need you to help me track my phone. Give me... I don't know how Parker was talking to him, by the way. I never figured that out. But track my phone because he left it with Toomes. Super smart of Pete.
Didn't he call him from Flash's phone or Flash's car?
That's right. That's right. Flash's car.
Because he ends up hijacking Flash's car. And then he can't even drive, which is hilarious. He's driving this really, really flashy car. No pun intended.
With the flash drive license plate.
Yeah. And so then they end up, finding... Is that where they go to where Toomes base is? Yeah,
they end up going to the Pete ends up to the base to the Toomes' camp by himself.
Yeah.
They're one-on-one, and he goes, "Oh, I see that you I think he says you didn't choose wisely or something like that. Like, oh, I see you didn't take my advice or something, like I told you not to do this. Why are you here?" But the crazy thing is he's already outsmarted Parker. He already has a way out. He already knows what he intends on doing. So he starts flying the vulture suit around and taking out all the pillars, but Parker does not realize it at all. Has no idea. He's like, "You're not even hitting me, dude. What the hell? Are you stupid or are you dumb, And Toomes is like, "No, I know exactly what I'm doing." Boom. Building collapses. Toomes gets out of there. I love this, Brando, because the part coming up has two beautiful little Easter eggs. One is a callback to something they did several times throughout the history of the Amazing Spider-Man comics, and another is very, very specifically taken from Spider-Man 33, where Parker is trapped. He's pinned. There's water running over him. He's pretty fucked up. Doesn't look like he's got a lot of opportunities here. But he fights and fights his way out of being pinned by this big, cooling unit, it seemed. And he gets out of there, but while he's fighting, there's a duality moment where he's looking in the puddle, and it's part of the Spider-Man mask, and it's part of his face. Because the mask is in the water in front of him, but his face is in the reflection. And they did that in the comics a lot throughout, where they would do the duality of Parker and Spider-Man. Again, calling back to this is a moment where he realizes the cost it's going to take to be both Spider-Man and Parker, because this is something he never would have expected. The girl he loves, the girl he's falling for, her dad's this supervillain. We said it before, man. And it shook him. But he knew he couldn't fight. He could not stay down. He just said, fuck it. I'm going to keep fighting until I can't fight anymore. And, he ends up latching onto the Vulture because he gets himself to Stark Tower. Vulture's going, obviously, to take on the plane, which I love that they used real tech. I don't know if you know this, Brando, but the tech they used on the plane really exists. What that is I don't know if the plane really exists, but the technology that they used to explain how the plane was a quote-unquote invisible plane is real. It essentially is an LED screen that on the inside of the LED screen has a camera that projects its image to the opposite camera of whatever it's seeing. So they can map it to show what essentially looks like what you saw in the movie, where it looks like the plane kind of disappeared. Loose camouflage, as it were.
Yeah.
So I love that. There's the big fight scene that happens on the plane. We saw some of that in the trailer. Not a lot. The plane ends up going down with Parker flying it. Kinda. Loosely with his web shooters. They crash on the beach. There's a little bit of a scuffle. Parker ends up winning and taking Toomes down. And did Toomes get blown up? Is that what happened? Like the suit blows up?
Oh man.
He's trying to pull the reactors away, right? But it's too much weight on his suit, right?
I think so, yeah.
And then it goes boom. And Parker thinks that he just killed the girl of his dreams, his dad. Not the first time he's done that unintentionally. Looking at you, Captain Stacy. But in doing that, we got a beautiful moment where he really gets to prove how much of a hero he is, because he saves Toomes.
Yep.
And I loved that. Just like, this dude caused him so much grief. And at the end of the day, Parker is still a kid who has a heart. And he couldn't just say, oh, let him die, whatever. It's what he deserves. He hasn't been jaded by the world. Tony might have let Toomes die, honestly. Probably would have. But of course, this is the moment, Brando, that we've all been waiting for. Parker is now the hero. We get an awesome scene, if you want to walk us through it a little bit, of Tony's return to Parker's life. And then I want to talk about Aunt May a little bit and how she was very integral to this plot before we wrap this up.
All right. So, of course, after Parker saved the day, saved, all that crap that Tony was trying to, transport up to the new Avengers headquarters, captured Toomes, all that kind of stuff. Parker's back at school. Things have calmed down. Parker says goodbye to Liz. It's funny because Liz and her mom, they're moving because I guess Toomes doesn't want them to be there for the trial and all that kind of stuff. They don't want to. He wants to keep them, again, him doing what he can to keep them safe.
Yep.
It's funny because there's a moment where like Parker and the suits AI Karen talk about how he feels about Liz, and she questions like, "Why don't you just tell her? Tell her how you feel. Tell her that you're Spider-Man." And there's a moment after he saves her in Washington where she goes, "Now's your chance to tell her." And it's funny because in my head, I was thinking that again as she was walking away for the last time. That was your chance. But again, at this point, she knows how her dad was taken down. So is that something that you really want to interject here to complicate things even more?
Well, no, and essentially Parker is saving her by not telling her.
Yeah.
I mean, because now, if we play devil's advocate here, if Liz decides to like try to fall for Parker, at some point he's going to tell her the truth of who he is.
Yeah.
Which then complicates things 50 million times more. It's like the whole drama has to start all over again from scratch. Because now, you took out my fucking dad? How dare, I don't care if he was being evil. He's my dad. Everybody feels that way. If my dad was an evil supervillain, I'd be like, don't fucking hurt my dad. He's my dad. He might be an evil supervillain, but, that's just the way it is, man. And obviously, Liz's mom is packed up. They're all gone. We get a nice little reveal. Michelle, who has not really been named or had a really big role in this movie, she was very subtly utilized and utilized in a nice way, reveals her name is MJ, as they call her.
Or
which is
that her friends that she doesn't have yet call her.
Yeah.
She was just really awkward character all throughout the movie that just kind of like was just there and gave you awkward humor. And from what I'm understanding is that doesn't necessarily mean that this is their iteration of Mary Jane at all. That this may just be like a little wink and that's it.
Yep. It could be. And I mean, they could reveal her to be adopted, or right now her name is Michelle Jones. But that could be a swerve too, and this could be the real MJ that's from this series. I don't know how, because they're going to change her look a little bit, but so what? I think this movie had too many good things to worry about the nitpicking on what they did or didn't get right. It's funny because I thought about this a little bit. The same thing I criticized Batman The Dark Knight Rises for, with the, they call me Robin, is kind of the same thing here.
Mm-hmm.
My friends who I don't really have yet call me MJ, which is a wink and a nod, but I think it's just more cleverly done here. She wasn't a major plot point in this movie. It seemed she had interest in Parker. It seemed that Parker was not disinterested in her, but that they didn't really have a full connection yet. Mm-hmm. And I think they can build on that, and I think moving forward, we're just going to have to see what that character has in store. Stark comes back. Good job, buddy. Hey, guess what? You're going to be an Avenger. Let's go up to upstate New York. Let's check it out, Brando. What did you think about this scene? Which I was really anticipating how they were going to pull this off, what they were going to intend on doing, whether or not they're going to give him the mark of being an Avenger already.
All right, so, he's at the Scholastic Bowl practice, I guess you could say. He gets a text, and he gets pulled away again. This time it's Happy in the bathroom. You get this really long, awkward silence. Some kid using the bathroom.
And then he washes his hands and takes forever.
Yeah. But I liked how Happy kind of apologized and kind of owned up to him not playing his part and him not taking Peter seriously.
Yeah.
And then that leads to, Tony's involvement and then him taking him up to the new Avengers facility, Tony talking to him, and Tony basically saying, this is it. You've earned your stripes, kid. You're in. And then he goes, yeah, we got a press conference in there. We're going to announce you as the new Avenger, all this kind of stuff. It's going to be cool. And then he shows him the new suit, in which can only be described what I think is like the movie version of the Iron Spider suit.
It was incredible, though.
as if the suit that he was given wasn't already like an Iron Spider suit. This one is more so akin to what the overall look. It's not the same, but that's the vibe I was getting. I'm like, okay, this is like Civil War era type, him given in the suit, and then the whole press conference thing, right? Like just like they did in Civil War, where he revealed himself and joined Tony's side for that, but then
surprise reveal, Brando. A character who has not been seen since Iron Man 3 returns to the big screen in this movie finally. Miss Pepper Potts.
Yes. Well, what we have is Tony laying this all out for him. You've earned this. Take it, man. It's yours. And what I loved is that in true Spider-Man fashion, he turns it down.
I can't. I got to protect the people closest to me. I just can't do that.
Well, what I've always loved, dude, what I've always loved about Spider-Man is that he's never officially been a part of the Avengers. He's never been officially a part of the Fantastic Four. Not really. Not Parker. Not like historically, like they've done these storylines, sure, but he always is an associate. Spider-Man
first, Avengers second.
If you even want to say that he's an actual member. Like there's just like he's always just like around, and I've always enjoyed that about him, where he's friends with all these guys and he's there to help, and you can even call him one, but really he's like, my role isn't saving the universe. My role is saving New York City. My role is to protect the people, and so he turns it down. Peter turns it down, and then starts walking away. And then I love how he goes, well, this was a test, right? You were testing me. And then Stark's like, oh, yeah, totally. You passed. Yeah. You manned up. And then, he goes to wait in the car. And now they're like, well, now what are we going to tell the people in the press conference? I don't know.
I'll make something up.
I'll make something up. Threw me for a loop. And then Pepper Potts walks in. She goes, where's the kid? You're not going to believe it. He manned up. He turned it down. He what? Yeah, I know. I loved it. It was great. It was great riffing. I loved seeing even all three of them on screen again for the first time. Of course, guy that plays Happy, Favreau.
Jon Favreau, yeah.
Jon Favreau, of course, he directed the original movie. He pretty much kickstarted all of this without even
the godfather of the MCU.
The guy who got Tony Stark casted. I mean, this is it. So, and I like how they were like, do you have the ring? And he's like, yeah, I've had it since 2008.
I love that.
And then they ended up, ending it really cool with that, where, offered him to him. Obviously, we might be seeing him in that suit in Avengers, which ought to be cool.
I have a thought on that. We're gonna get into that in a second here, Brando. But it's weird. I actually can't remember how the movie closed up. I know that Parker goes back to his room. Oh, I do recall how it closes up, because there's the bag that says, I think this is yours.
Yes.
Or this belongs to you, is what it says. TS. And then the reveal of him wearing it for the first time since it was taken away, we get this huge reveal, and I love that I just segued this nicely, to Parker showing Aunt May the suit with his mask off. She knows.
Well, he's standing there in the suit, right? Pretty much reveling in the fact that he got the suit back. Yes, I've got my suit back. Awesome. And then just like how Ned found out earlier in the movie, Aunt May finds out. And it's awesome because all throughout the movie, Aunt May, in times that you see her, she's like basically hounding on him, like she was, telling him that, I know you sneak out. I know you're doing this, especially when all the pressure is coming onto Peter for all the stuff that he's been messing up, all the stuff that he's been doing. He's been getting in trouble, all this kind of stuff. she's not dumb. She sees all this stuff, and she's worried about him and doing all this stuff, right? And then with the, she's kind of being like the go-to parental figure for Peter, trying to help him through this hard time in his life. And I actually like that Aunt May's younger here, because it kind of helps be a little bit more relatable, to where it would actually be like her son rather than like her grandson.
Like big sister.
Big sister, mom figure, where, every time they do a Spider-Man franchise or like a series, Aunt May gets younger. That's the joke. But I actually really enjoy having Aunt May not be so old here, because it's like, man, how old were Peter's parents?
For real.
Now, with her finding out at the end, it was hilarious because of how they ended it. Because they've been throughout the movie, they threw in some little bit harsher dialogue that we're not used to hearing in Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
With the shit and bullshit. And then it ends with her saying, "What the f," and then it goes to credits.
Yeah, which was clever. Very clever how they ended it. I want to say one other scene that we didn't really talk about too much is there was a beautiful parallel scene where they mimic Ferris Bueller's Day Off while paying homage to Ferris Bueller's Day Off because it was in the movie.
Yep.
I was just like, fuck, that is so good. You're so smart. Obviously, there's lots of Star Wars references. It's a Disney property. It was all over the place with Easter eggs, man. There were lots of great things there. I love the Iron Spider suit. It is like grown-up Spider-Man, though. That's kind of what I looked at it as. It's like, man, that's if he was like, I'm going to be super adult and all official now. My opinion is when we go to Infinity War, we're getting black suit Spidey. I'm telling you, it's got to be. It's got to happen. Tom Holland was on set with an all CGI suit. In this movie, he did not have an all CGI suit. Most of the suit was practical.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, I don't quote me here, but I'm just saying, I think that'd be interesting. They're going to go to space. That's a beautiful way to do it. It's a tie back to how it actually happened in the comics with the Secret Wars 1.
Yep.
Well, actually, it was Secret Wars 8, but the original Secret Wars storyline. I love that. Now, Brando, we get an after credit scene. We actually got two for this movie. We'll talk about the first one first, second one second. The first one first. What are your thoughts here? It seems like we are setting up for the Sinister Six.
Yeah, Will Toombs is walking through prison, and he has a little passerby with the Scorpion, and they kind of have words, and Scorpion's like, "Word is, you know who he is." And the scene gets a little tense there for a second, and you wonder, what is Toombs going to do? And Toombs replies, "If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead."
Yep.
And then, so, yeah, he doesn't give up the secret. And that could be multifaceted, because you can think, number one, he wants to save it because he wants to get the revenge. Number two, he saved him even after everything else, and also still didn't tell his daughter who he was. So there's a certain level of respect for him. And it could be all-encompassing. It could be a little bit of everything here.
Yeah, it also could be a wait till the timing is right to reveal that, because, it is. And also, you got to think, he was still, Adrian Toombs in this movie is still a very level-headed character, and it's not like him to just go, fuck it, I'm going to kill this kid.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of tried to kill Parker, but when Parker didn't die, he's not going to be like, man, let me really seriously do my best to end this dude's life. He's just like, man, this guy's tough. And right now, there's no way out for Toombs, so of course. But I love that line because it took his character, which I thought hovered in the 90% range for me all movie, and really elevated it to like almost 100% when he just says, if I knew who he was, he'd already be dead. Because it does give you that kind of like Now he has a secret on Spidey, and that's a cool dynamic. There have been Batman villains that have known who Batman really was. There have been Flash villains who have known who Flash really is. Obviously, there have been Spider-Man villains all the same. The way they do it this time, though, is it's just like it's building to something else, I think, and I think that's cool for sure. Now, I want to jump ahead, Brando. Let's talk about that final post-credit scene, the one everybody was waiting for all night. This was beautifully done. Marvel doing a great job of keeping it fresh and mixing it up. I'm guessing this is not the post-credit scene you were expecting.
Well, I didn't even know that there were two until I looked it up.
Like after the fact, you didn't see it in theaters?
No, I did, but I saw the first one and I looked up to see how many there were, so that see if I still had to sit there.
Oh, I gotcha.
I had to pee like a Russian racehorse, dude. I was, I probably had to I probably got the feeling of having to take a pee, and take a pee mic, type deal, probably at the 40-minute mark of the movie.
Oh, damn, that movie was 2 hours and change.
I know. So I was like very uncomfortable for most of this movie, just sitting there going, I have to pee so bad, but I don't want to miss anything.
The decisions we make, right?
Yeah, and then of course my wife Caitlin, she also had to use the bathroom, and she asked me how many there were, and I said I think there's only one. So she went ahead and took off, so she didn't see it. But I told her there was another one, so if she wanted to come back, she could have come back in time, but she just decided not to. She decided to just wait in the lobby.
What did you think of it, Brando?
It was funny. It is what it was. It was a callback to a couple different public service videos that Captain America did for the schools. And basically, where he's talking to the students, talking to kids about their future, and all this kind of stuff, being stand up. And that last one, he comes out, and it's another one of those public service videos, and he's talking about patience and waiting for something that seemingly never comes and probably won't pay off the way that you want it to.
Now, I loved that because it does call back to the PSAs throughout the thing. Kevin Feige and John Watts said that it was kind of like, you know how we did the Kennedy presidential things, the challenges or whatever, how many sit-ups, how many push-ups, how long can you run or how fast can you run your mile and all that shit. You remember we did that in school? Where we had to spread our legs out and try to reach as far as we could on the ruler, and they everybody had to do it in PE.
No, I don't remember that at all.
Well, we had to do it. You did it. We were a part of it. It's not fake news. But they said that in this movie that Captain America was like the spokesperson for the JFK presidential fitness awards or whatever, and that's why he was there. But the lovely thing is, Chris Evans says a beautiful line that's so subtle, and if you're not paying attention to it, it wouldn't even matter. But then, in retrospect, I just kept thinking about what he said, and he goes, how many more of these do we got?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the clock is ticking, man. I don't see Cap making it out of the Infinity Story. I don't see Iron Man making it out of the Infinity Story. I do believe that Thor and Hulk could make it out of the Infinity Story. I think it'd be crazy to get rid of them so early on in their runs. But Chris Evans has played Captain America just as fucking much as Tony Stark has played Iron Man, and they've been in more Marvel Cinematic Universe movies than any other two characters. So the time is nearing, man. That's just the brutal, brutal truth of it.
Yeah, it's kind of what I said earlier. How many more of these guys have in them,
Yeah, absolutely. But, all right, well, let's get down to the nitty-gritty, Brando. Out of 5 stars, what do you give this son of a bitch?
I'm going to give it a 4. I really liked it. There are some parts of the movie that I was a little bit critical on. The fact that they didn't do the full on origin, which is fine, but in a way it's almost a little bit detrimental to it to just refer to things in passing. The passing of Uncle Ben in passing, the spider. While I liked how they brought it up, it would have been nice to have seen that in a flashback or do something with it. Overall, I thought it was really good and a good alternate take on the character and characters, if you will, by marrying everything all encompassing to the MCU. And honestly, probably I think it is the overall, even though there's some things missing that I wish that were in here, I think all in all it's probably the best executed Spider-Man film that they've done in a long time. And this is harkening back all the way to the original first two, which I like the first two almost just as much as like either one. I do think that Spider-Man 2 is one of those rare sequels like The Dark Knight and Terminator 2 that actually improved upon the original movie. And they're going to have their work cut out for them to improve on this.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and say 4.25 is probably where I'd give this. There were a couple things throughout that I did mention on the show that kind of took me out of it a little bit. Certain things that just don't quite line up, not knowing for certain how the cinematic universe played out with the whole 8 years later thing. But overall, man, this was a masterwork. This was like if Spider-Man met the Breakfast Club, and I mean that in the most beautiful, best way. Like, it was just very well done.
This is my favorite MCU movie, probably, out of all of them. I think this is probably the best executed one in a while. You know, I was pretty disappointed with how Civil War ended, or not. I shouldn't say ended. How the whole movie came about and ended, and how it was kind of all built around the one scene. Obviously, this movie was not that. This movie was a standalone character movie, and some of those movies can be hit or miss, as we all know. I mean, it's no secret. You know, Marvel doesn't always hit home runs, but they definitely did here.
Yeah, very well said, Brando. I just want to end this show while saying that I'm so excited for the sequel of Spider-Man Homecoming, whatever they call the second movie. Not Spider-Man Prom, obviously. Terrible joke. I want to give you a little bit of real news here, Brando. 107 million spiders were found in a 4-acre web at the Baltimore wastewater treatment plant. The nest is believed to be the most concentrated spider population in the U.S. 100,000,007 spiders were found, covering 95% of the building's interior, which spans almost 4 acres. The spiders are orb weavers, which actually I have around my house. They measure about a half-inch long and have long, slim bodies with shiny abdomens. They are found in swamps or damp areas, so the wastewater treatment plant is pretty obvious that they were catching their prey. But they said those who dared enter the facility found all-encompassing webs calculated to contain 35,176 spiders for every cubic meter of space.
Yeah.
The discovery has led some to believe that the nest is the most concentrated spider population in the U.S.
Nope.
Wow.
Nope.
They said that they're going to have to figure out what to do because the webbing engulfing the entire ceiling of the warehouse down to 2 or 3 feet from the ground, which this is a super tall building, was so heavy that they were worried, and it actually bent some of the alloy steel.
Jeez.
Permanently damaged the steel from how heavy these spiders are. What the fuck?
Dude, spiders don't bother me, but that many spiders would bother me.
Perfect. That's perfectly said, because me too. Also as well. Man. But I don't think I really have anything else. Do you have anything else, Brando?
I think it's been a really good episode, and I really enjoyed talking about the movie. A little bit here at the end. After seeing this movie, I got in a car wreck.
Yeah, we did not talk about that yet.
We don't have to spend too much time on it. We were on the way back to my in-laws' house to pick up my son, and we got rear-ended at a stoplight.
What you're telling me, it wasn't that terrible.
Huh?
The wreck looked bad, but luckily you guys weren't hurt, so it was nothing too terrible.
No, I mean we were fine. A little banged up for about like a day. You know, I think my wife hit her arm, and I mean obviously it was pretty jarring. My cell phone flew right out of my hands. I thought it flew like right out my window for a second because I couldn't find it.
Oh shit!
But it actually flew out of my hands and into the driver's seat floorboard. I was actually in the passenger seat. And my wife was so shaken up, and she had a panic attack, and she couldn't move the car. I had to move the car off the road and into a nearby like a parking lot while we waited for the authorities to arrive. And that really threw a niche into our plans that night. We were gonna chill out, come home, and do whatever. And it took a little bit for us to end with that. $8,000 worth of damage, Nate.
Holy shit!
Yeah, the dude smacked me up pretty good, man. We were thinking that, dude, there is a chance that this is going to total the car because it might have been some frame damage. But I guess they're going to be able to fix her up. Probably just order a bunch of new parts and slap them on.
Well, that's very, very great news, actually.
Yeah, you know what? We're going to be heading into town tomorrow to talk with the body shop. And figure this whole thing out and how long they estimate it's gonna be, and do all the paperwork and the jargon and all that kind of crap, and get my gosh dang Dystopia CD out of my CD player because I'm trying to find all my CDs, and I'm like, I'm missing one. I'm missing Ice Earth Dystopia. Oh no, it's one of my favorites. So I'm like, if they're going to scrap this car, if they're going to get rid of it, I got to get my CD back, damn it.
They probably would have asked you, hey, do you have anything important in your car before
You would hope so, but then when the body shop called us on Monday, that the car wasn't even there.
Yeah, you were telling me. That's crazy.
It ended up being like, since it was after hours, it happened right around close to 6 o'clock on Saturday evening. The car got towed somewhere else in lieu of, because they were not going to be open on Sunday. So on Monday, ended up getting taken over to the body shop. And then yesterday, that's when my insurance adjuster went and levied out the damage report. And then we got to deal with this whole thing with, man, the dude just brammed right into the back of us. I don't really know what, if he was going fast enough to do that much damage. So there was no way he was behind us and stopped and thought, oh, I gotta go, and then he had to have been rolling thinking that we were moving or not paying attention or doing something. Dude didn't even ask if we were okay, and that kind of bugs me a little bit because he didn't say a word to us. His parents showed up and they talked to, or his dad talked to me, asked if we were okay, and made sure, and then assured me that he had insurance and all this kind of stuff, and apologized profusely. And here's the thing: is that I really wasn't mad. I was more so like just flabbergasted that this happened. And so I wasn't mad, and I said something to the lines of accidents happen, even though I was still kind of upset that this dude didn't even come up and ask us if we were okay, and he didn't seem like he was even going to.
Yeah, that's shitty.
So it's like, I mean, the kid in front of us, this dude pushed us into somebody in front of us. And this was his work vehicle. It was a big, we got sandwiched in between two trucks. And like, we dented this other truck's like rear bumper just a little bit. He came out and asked if we were okay. And then I think he went and said something to the guy behind us. And then we got off the road. This kid was not very, very old. He was wearing this really cool Metallica Now That We're Dead shirt. So I gave him a compliment on the shirt, which I was actually had the CD in my car. We were listening to that when we got hit.
What? That's crazy. Did you say that to him?
No, but I just was like, it was just this whole thing, like getting hit, getting in a car accident where nobody gets hurt. I mean, it's always an inconvenience, especially if someone gets hurt, right? It's pretty bad. But since nobody got hurt, then it just became like, man, this is like the biggest inconvenience that you can have right now. It's like, and I'm so glad that Wyatt wasn't with us, because I don't think that he would have been hurt. He definitely would have been jarred. It would have scared the crap out of him.
Yep, for sure.
And then my worry is that he would be afraid to get back in the car. Which, I mean, thankfully he wasn't there, and he is none the wiser. Other than that, I told him that Daddy's car broke, and then he said, "Daddy, car broke." And then he doesn't know what it means, but I mean, that's how I ended my Spider-Man experience, was by getting rear-ended by a truck.
Damn. That was not that was not amazing.
It was not amazing, spectacular, or superior. It was just
and there was no homecoming. You had to wait to go home.
I did have to wait to go home, and we actually had to borrow my mother-in-law's car to get home.
But luckily for you guys, you have 2 vehicles, so that's good.
Yeah, and then of course I've been on shutdown all week, so we haven't had to worry about having 2 vehicles. I mean, granted, we are covered for a rental up to a certain extent and like a dollar amount, and we've been waiting to get that rental until I'm actually going to need that.
Yeah, that's smart.
I mean, with that much damage, I'm hoping, that the fixed time will fall within the amount of time that I have the rental. But to be like perfectly honest with you, I'm kind of expecting us to have to take the rental back before they're done fixing it.
Really?
I haven't heard yet. I haven't even talked to the body shop guys yet. But I mean, with how much damage there was, I'm really afraid, because it seemed like it took them a little bit to fix the Impreza, which that happened when I first appeared on the podcast all those years ago now.
Weird, yeah.
But like, it took them a little bit. We had the rental, and it was fine, but then it was like it seemed like we heard nothing. We're like, is this car gonna get fixed? And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, it's done. So I'm hoping that they can get it done within the amount of time that I have the rental. But with as much damage that was done, I'm fearful. I'm fearful that it's going to take them longer than what they think. But I guess we'll find out tomorrow when we go into town.
Well, fingers crossed for you, brother. But if that's going to do it I want to just say I'm glad you guys are okay. That's a shitty situation no matter how you slice it. But if that's going to do it for this week, Journey into Comics, I just want to say you guys can check us out on all our different social medias. You can go to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. You can listen to us on Podbean, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Podbean app, iTunes. You can subscribe to us and give us a rating of 5 stars and tell us that we're amazing or awful. Soon, not this next week, not 149, but 150's coming up. Can't wait for that. But I think that's going to do it. This amazing episode of Journey into Comics, dissecting my favorite superhero, Mr. Spider-Man. Brando, do you have anything else to add?
That'll be it, my friend.
Alrighty, folks. For this week's episode of Journey into Comics, I'm Nate.
I'm Brando.
We'll see you guys next time. Have an amazing time. Fill your brains with shit.